Hello and welcome everyone to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Anthony Lampelius, the Vice President of Revenue Growth and Strategy at Wavical Data Solutions. We are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of phenomenal interviews with extraordinary guests. Today, I'm very excited to have the pleasure of speaking with Seth Dobrin, Chief Data Officer at IBM. Seth, thank you for joining us today and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Seth. To kick this off, typically, when I speak to industry-leading chief data officers like yourself, I always like to start by really understanding, what was the journey that brought you to become a chief data officer with IBM? And if you could give us a little background on that career progression and your path to IBM today, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's an especially relevant question for chief data officers because there's not even remotely a defined path to becoming one. And so my background's unique even among chief data officers. So I'm actually a human molecular and statistical geneticist. So my PhD's in neuropsychiatric genetics. And 25 years ago, when I was doing my PhD, we were using all the same tools we use today when we think about, big data and data science, Python, R. Of course, there was no Hadoop back then, but, and so I have a long history of using those tools. But my journey went through, running labs and, data analysis operations in industry and academia relating to human and plant genetics. And when I was at my last company, we had some very significant impacts on the business processes around our product development pipeline that led me to start applying those same tools that I described, plus, modern applications of them when we think about Hadoop and all the NoSQL and all the modern what we call big data, as much as I dislike that term, tooling and technologies at scale to solve other business problems. And so I spent 5 years at that company doing that. I had a very significant impact on the top and the bottom line. Led a cultural transformation of data, both data, and partnered on an agile transformation with my peer who led the development organization. And ultimately, at some point, I decided I wanted to, don't have a data or IT background. I wanted to go to a technology company and kind of do two things, get some credibility in the field, as well as learn about other industries. And so that's how I wound up at IBM. I've been at IBM for 4 years, and as the chief data officer for, we have multiple chief data officers. I'm the chief data officer for our cloud and cognitive software business, which represents more than a third of our revenue today and probably close to 75 or 70% of our revenue after we complete the spinoff of our one of our businesses.
Well, it's a pretty incredible journey to see kind of, how you got into this role and how that's, really brought you through IBM and built up that background. So, kind of going off of that, I see a lot of talk around digital transformation. And we see it happening coming out of 2020, right? A lot of change. And I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about some strategic initiatives that you're seeing in the market today, really around organizations developing more of a disruptive cloud strategy, advanced machine learning concepts, and even looking at artificial intelligence for trust and transparency.
Yeah. So, what we think of as digital transformation has been going on for, 8-9 years at this point, right? That's what we called what we went through at my former company. I think the difference is, especially what we went through last year with the pandemic, digital transformation has been accelerated. And there's a few core foundational elements to digital transformation today that just weren't available as commodity previously. One is this concept of hybrid cloud. In order to digitally transform, it almost requires that you go to a cloud environment. And cloud environment can mean multiple things. It can mean a public cloud like IBM Cloud or AWS or Microsoft Azure. It could mean a private cloud. We've doubled down on private cloud, and that typically means something that runs on containers. So in our case, it's Kubernetes and through Red Hat. And it also means a combination of these, because you're not just going to, even if your destination is 100% public cloud, you're not just going to get there instantaneously. So there's this transition period where even if you're going 100% to a single cloud, you're going to be in a hybrid cloud environment where you're going to have a private cloud and you're going to have your public cloud and you're going to have your legacy environments that are not cloud. And if you look at companies that have been really successful at digital transformation, they're not on one public cloud. They're on multiple public clouds. They may have one public cloud that's home base, but all the public clouds have specific values that they can add. And so they go to these other clouds, but you need to maintain a cohesive data and development and application environment. Plus, when you think about tools like Salesforce and Workday, those are clouds themselves. So how do you integrate that data in a hybrid world? So that's one aspect is everything's got to be hybrid and probably multi-cloud. The other aspect, when you think about we think about applying AI, there's some core components to AI that as businesses we need to think about. First and foremost is trust and transparency. So how do you build trustworthy AI? How do you ensure that your AI is trustworthy? And by trustworthy, I include fair. And that I could spend an hour just talking about that. The other component of AI is automation. So how do you both automate your AI, but more importantly, how do you take that AI and use it to at least partly automate processes? Not to remove humans entirely, but to help them do their jobs more effectively often requires automation. So a great example of that is I go into a virtual agent and this is way oversimplified example. I log into my bank. I need to change my password. I don't want the virtual agent to say, go to this website to change my password. I want the virtual agent to say, okay, here, what do you want your password to be? Here's your new password. It's all set, right? I don't want to have to leave. So that's a way oversimplified example, but still not something that happens with most banks' virtual agents. And so talked about trust, talked about and transparency, talked about automation. The other important part for businesses especially is, mastering the language of a business in your AI. So when you look at, NLP models, so natural language processing and natural language understanding models, businesses often have a lot of jargon that are industry specific and corporation specific. How do you use commodity NLP or close to commodity NLP models to understand your business and then take that understanding and extract meaningful tidbits? So, the way we use this inside IBM is if you go to our website and you're looking at a particular product. When we release a new product on our website, there's new features and new capabilities in there. So the FAQs need to be updated. We can have one of our product managers go in and manually update the FAQs, or we could have an NLP model that automatically extracts the new capabilities and inserts them into our web page and into the virtual agent that's on that web page. So those are the kinds of things that you can do with when you really truly master the language of business in your AI.